of me just like getting nervous and not knowing why. And I can continue to metaphorically keep climbing and not know what's going on. But eventually, it's good to the first thing to do when it comes to anything that holds you back, you have to identify it. Otherwise, it's going to keep tugging on you until you just can't deal with it anymore. And then once you identify it and you're free of it, then you can start moving forward.
Welcome to the Inner Compass, a place to get curious, explore God, the universe, and uncover your purpose. Together, we'll dive into values, alignment, growth, and the journey to becoming who you're meant to be. Let's discover and grow and thrive, starting from the heart. Follow us on YouTube and hashtag Leader of You Inner Compass. So, I see it from a perspective from LA, like Mel Gibson. He understands he's losing things, but he also understands his things. It's not his identity. It's not everything to him. And that, yeah, we can rebuild. And some of the greatest rebuilds requires the greatest destruction. Unfortunately, it's the way it works. And then I see people, it's my stuff, my memories and everything. And I feel them too, and I feel them. And it's thinking, well, your life, you're out here, you got a second chance. But more importantly, how did the fire start?
So I'm not one for conspiracy, but I do understand that when there is high winds, that was what we started with. We had 80 to 90
Okay,
miles
that makes
per
sense.
hour. Yeah, like we had a high windstorm, which was uncommon, but with high winds,
You
fire
get any
travels.
type of fire, it could jump in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
It'd be a
fire travels.
cigarette.
Exactly, exactly. So that exacerbated people's desire apparently to start fires. So then they grew, and now we have probably the unprecedented fire in Los Angeles that we've ever had. And honestly, I think I mentioned prior to us jumping on this call, I was 2 blocks away from an evacuation zone. And me and my dog were just like, oh, she was calm. She was so calm. I was like, why are you calm? I'm like freaking out, trying to figure out what we need. And then I was already packed up to go to Arizona because we had a trip. I had a trip coming up anyways. And oh my goodness. I was like, all right, so if I have to come back, this suitcase is everything I need just in case. And then if I have to rebuild, I'll rebuild from there.
Well, see, I love that mentality, Ace. That's a true champion to me. That understands that we're going to be defeated sometimes, there are going to be losses, things are going to be taken away, but at the end of the day, you're still alive and they can't take you away.
Exactly, exactly. And my dog was in good care. I brought her to, I was going to take her with me, but oh my goodness, it's a little hard to take a large dog on a flight last minute. So instead, I had a really good dog sitter away from the fires who I knew could take care of her. And
Oh,
then
okay.
I
So you
could come back.
got freedom to go explore, got the worries out of the way, and be concerned, and then got to be free during all this stuff. So, that's being blessed. It really is. And
Yeah.
I saw your pictures of Arizona and just looking at the beauty of it. I haven't been yet. My wife has,
Mhm.
but I haven't been out there to actually put my hands on it and experience it. But
Mhm.
I'm gonna.
Yeah, I'm super grateful for it because when I was there, they have this thing in Sedona, Arizona, where
Mhm.
there are vortexes in this one area. And at first I was like, vortexes, that sounds really interesting. But then when it got there, the scientific backing behind the vortexes is there is like a different magnetic pull within these structures that has been there. So as we were driving around, I remember feeling like I was being pulled in a different
You're being
way, like
polarized. You're like in an MRI of that.
pretty much, yeah, but like to
Yeah.
heal. So I'm like sitting there, we're driving around, and I'm like, I feel really tired for some reason. And we're back. And it's like, because the energies are so different, it's tugging on parts of you, or parts of you, like, since we're water, right? Really pulling us in different directions and pulling me to like really reflect on different parts of my life that I needed to process. And I did not expect that to happen that fast.
That was a yo-yo. I was, I
Yeah.
had not heard of that. That's something interesting to experience going through. But yeah, we're pretty much like we're waves. we're vessels in containers that have waves and energy. And so, yeah, if you get electromagnetic burst like that, that can occur. I'm more curious how it happens out there. That would be very interesting anomaly that it happens just in a particular area.
Right. And a lot of people have been mentioning, the locals of that area have been mentioning, a lot of people have been coming to Sedona, Arizona as like a spiritual mecca. Like they're coming there to feel the energy, the new balances, and especially at a time like this where we have six planets aligning and we have some of the most
Yes.
intense natural
Now,
disasters we've ever had.
well,
So,
we also have intense magnetic pull from all that as well. When you
mhm.
line that up, and it's all gravity and it's all gravitational pull. So anytime you add multiple gravitations in a sense in combination of the sum of, get it hard to yank on the rope.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I know we met through Touched and Empowered, my podcast with my co-host Katie, and we support the Teen Suicide Prevention Society. Additionally to what we do as co-hosts of a podcast, we're also transformational coaches. So for me, I work with a lot of energy with clients. I do a lot of healing with clients, especially when they're going through some of the biggest atrocities of their life. For very similar to what you were saying, essentially, we sometimes need that big destruction for to create a new path or create a new life, right? So I'm actually a coach to help people through those
I
times.
see. Okay. Well, yeah, any type of tragedy, emotional disparity, huge shift in one's, life,
Yeah.
disruptive. Yeah,
Yeah.
disruptive.
When we go through big loss, like for instance, I have a client tonight who just went through a very catastrophic breakup with somebody that they've been with for years. And a lot of times we identify with those
Right.
things that we have, right?
That's what I was getting ready to say. It becomes your identity.
Yeah. And now that it's over, I she was so sweet. She was like, I just met you today, and all of a sudden I just knew I needed to I needed to meet with you and work with you now because everything's been working like lightning moving me forward. And I love hearing that from clients. So that's a good portion of what I do as well.
Well, I mean, that's great. I mean, to have somebody like that can help you guide through that and lift you up, give them a positive perspective on life. They too can get through this
Absolutely. Hence
and
the
rebuild. So, kudos to you, Ace. I appreciate you doing that type of work. And mine is similar. It's more in words
mm,
and how you speak and what you create in your life. And I work in vision, core alignment, and words. So our beliefs are believing what we're seeing and believing what we went through and understand. And I look at the script, if you will, on a computer. It's, how did you script this belief? And is it a supporting belief or a non-supporting belief? Or was it a generational belief that is not, exactly right? Or if it's a very limited belief, who knows? Or it's very empowering belief. We don't know these things. But what I do know is I bought a car and it's made up a lot of parts and it's made up a lot of memories and from many people that put that car together from many different experiences. And
mm,
so in that collection, I'm driving down and I hit a bump in the road and all of a sudden my car's not driving right. So I need to go take it to the alignment shop and see what got knocked out of whack because when I'm out of whack, my results are off. And I
mm,
don't get what I'd like to have out of life. I get things that I don't want to produce. And then we get in places that we're producing these things over and over again, and we wonder why. And most likely it goes back into your belief, the words you speak over yourself, and the vision that you have. I'm a
mm.
alignment shop.
Oh, we love that, right? It's funny because we were talking about alignment and it's our mind and our heart, right? When they are aligned, we're powerful.
Well, you get it all on your spirit, your heart, and your mind and your soul. All if you get all that in alignment, you're powerful. Then you start getting results because you're speaking from authentic. You're being authentic to yourself.
Yeah, yeah, and
And
also it happens fast.
yeah, it comes quick. But yeah. Well, good Lord. I mean, just let's go back to energy. I'm an acoustical engineer from background.
Oh, I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah, electrical acoustical. I used to design speakers and I think in waves and energy and all sorts of things as an engineer would. But if you look at it in resonance, Resonance requires extremely little energy to sustain. But as soon as our bodies come out of resonance, the current draw to keep it within that frequency becomes huge. And we're not designed to maintain that type of energy level for a long period of time. And after that, think of it about it as the power source can only sustain that for so long. You drain the power source, what happens? You have brownouts, or blackouts even, and it's non-conducive to your life. So what is it that we have to get back into resonance so we don't have that super power draw on our lives? That's usually negative energy. It keeps us out of resonance. When we're in resonance with everything, our bodies reflect it, our energy roars reflect it, our decisions and our results reflect it on it.
Yeah, it can be so uncanny too. So sometimes a lot of people fear, and this is something that I've recognized, a lot of people fear how powerful we really can be, right? Or they doubt it.
Yes, they can. And they're afraid of success too.
Exactly. So as you're inching towards your success and breaking through new grounds, it's terrifying. And you're on a subconscious level, your body is very aware of that. It understands, oh, this is different.
Mhm.
And
That's what the primordial fear is there for, is to protect you. It's like we're in new areas. Somebody, there's a saber tooth out there might eat me. Be careful. I mean, that's a real thing. We come with that design. But it's, we got to realize that saber tooth in these days is fictitious. And I think it's really a big mind shift to think we get to enjoy this adventure and versus I'm fearing of what's the unknown.
Yeah, and it takes practice. It takes small
Yeah.
bits of practice to get there.
Build that
And
courage muscle up.
yeah, and look, all right, so we were talking about this. I think this was before the call. So thank you very much for watching my story, because on my Instagram story, essentially I was sitting on a ledge next to Horseshoe Bend in Arizona, and it is so beautiful. Like you're at 1,000 feet above sea level, and you just see this giant river at the bottom of your feet. And I'm sitting on this ledge a little bit high up, and I realized when watching it, all of my friends were saying that is scary to even watch just on video. Oh my goodness. and, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, that took me 5 seconds to go just like sit there. And I'm used to heights like that because I used to boulder for a couple of years. And I've learned that sometimes our greatest fears, as long as we sit there literally and take it in bites, right, we eventually overcome them, and then it becomes the new normal. So those types of heights, I have 4 more videos of that, but I don't know if everyone's ready for it.
Well, take my perspective. I didn't even think about that. I thought about getting on a parasail. I didn't even think about that.
That's awesome.
When I woke up, I was like, cool. The only thing I'd be afraid of is smacking the walls going down.
Yeah. I
So,
was talking to a friend about that. I was like, we were at the Grand Canyon, and I was like, could you imagine squirrel shooting through this? And then for a second, I was like, that would be so dangerous. Oh my gosh, you can you can fly right into the canyon. It's not a good idea. Don't do that. Not yet. Not unless you're really.
that's the perspective, personality too. And I'm a risk taker, but I I don't know what boulder is, but it may be in similar to rappelling. I've rappelled a lot. So I would get on a cliff face like that, and I'd look down, and when I first started rappelling, I didn't know much about it, and I was up on I think a 150-foot tower, and the tower is just doing this from the wind, so it's very unnerving anyway because it's flexing. It's much like an aircraft wing when it flops up. Everybody gets scared that the wings don't break off, but it's designed to match that. And and so I'm sitting there freaking out, and then I just get in position, lean back, and go. But once I'm on the rappel, then it got exciting for me. I don't think about the fear. I'm thinking about the exhilaration of jumping and bounding all the way down on it, and that became addictive to me. And I didn't care to jump off anything with a rope as long as I knew it was tied in right.
See,
And yeah,
that's important. And it jolts your so it jolts your nervous system in a way where it's like what you used to fear, it could be exciting. And that shift in that second is actually what helps break paradigms.
Exactly that, because the body doesn't really know the difference between fear and acceleration part. It's the same nervous system. It's conducting the same energy. It's our association with it that really matters. And that paradigm shift is, like you said, you overcome it and it becomes the exhilarating part. That's no longer fear. It's a fear busted at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Because fear and excitement are of the same energy. They're of,
It's the same energy. It's just what the association is.
yeah.
But the nervous condition is the same level.
Yeah. Yeah. It's what I found about being in that space of it could either go wrong or yay. Um, it's one of the you get to decide in that moment, and once you make the decision with as much courage as possible, it's there's nothing like it. It's like all of a sudden you're in tune with everything that you're working with,
Mhm.
either rappelling down, climbing up. Bouldering is like rock climbing without a rope. um
Yeah, okay, don't slip.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that, yeah, climb, just keep
Yeah,
climbing.
just keep climbing and don't let go. Don't slip.
Exactly. And there's a lot of metaphors around that. One of my favorites is that there is a like a there's a threshold. Essentially, if you climb I don't remember the exact threshold, but if you climb about like 3 or 4 stories up, right? If you fall, you'll get injured,
Yeah.
but you won't die. So as long as you keep climbing through the 3 to 4 stories, essentially within that threshold, you still have the decision to go, oh, okay, I'll either keep going or I can turn back around. Like there's still that mindset, but once you hit that fourth story, it's essentially you're climbing for your life. So you only have one choice: keep going.
Hmm. You're in. Not one shoe out, one shoe in. You're in 100%. And
Yeah,
that's really the transition in between building great businesses and having mediocre, or having a mediocre life, or having an exciting life that is worth living for, is that second foot coming in out of the safety zone and into the danger zone, and you're committed. It's you. You're on the field now.
yeah,
What is it? What is it going to be? And
exactly.
that's a transition. Everybody has to go through that if you want
Yeah.
to step into your greatness.
Oh yeah. One of my favorite books that touches on that is the it's so great. It talks about the 4 fears that we all have. Your Do you know what I'm talking about? Hold on. I have it in my
Yes,
phone.
I do. It's a fear of doubt, fear of success, fear of people. There's another book I need to share with you that has multiple fears and how to overcome those fears and equip you with tools. It was really a foundational book, but I'd like to hear what you got too. I don't know if I got it on hand.
It's so this, ladies and gentlemen, can you tell we read a lot? We don't know the titles. Hold on. Let me. It is called the. Oh my gosh, I remember going through it so fast because it was so. It just
That's good.
clicked. It is called the. No, it's funny that I can't find it. Is it
That's what I'm doing the same, but I owe you a book name. But the
the
thing
Big
about,
Leap, right?
huh?
The Big Leap.
The big league? No.
That's one. The Big Leap is a guide like transcending your 4 fears. And then I think it was the Big Leap. Yeah, it was the Big Leap by Gay Hendricks.
By who?
Gay Hendricks.
Gay Hendricks. See if I can find that real quick.
Yeah, this book changed the trajectory of me just like getting nervous and not knowing why. And I can continue to metaphorically keep climbing and not know what's going on. But eventually, it's good to the first thing to do when it comes to anything that holds you back, you have to identify it. Otherwise, it's going to keep tugging on you until you just can't deal with it anymore. And then once you identify it and you're free of it, then you can start moving forward.
No, absolutely, 100%. And it's telling you something, and that's where we get to stop. and understand what it is. A lot of
Hmm.
times we don't know what the fear is. We know it exists, but what is it?
Exactly. And that's actually what changes from this is all I have to this is what I can achieve.
Yeah, from lack to abundance. You stay in lack with fear because it doesn't want you to go any place else but to be in that one place.
And
I'm
it's
thinking,
romantic. It
yeah,
funny enough, it's actually it can be very romantic the way that like that mindset could be like, but stay with me. I want you to be safe. I love you. Just stay like that.
that's an
Like it's
interesting interpretation, but I can definitely say you could probably write a book and a whole book on that one concept.
oh yeah, probably, right? Like because I've been thinking about it lately. It's like the things that you know, it provides comfort. It's like one of those things that you're so used to it, but then when you finally break out of it, like romance is a completely different is a different mindset of like, no, now we get to thrive, we get to grow, we get to expand together, and that exhilaration, it's not as tiring anymore. So that's
Maybe it's dancing with fear. I don't know. Call call a book like that. It's just like it's almost kind of erotic in the sense that you would have that type of relationship with something so dangerous and so limiting, but yet it's so real that you're living on the edge.
yeah, it's a real thing, and it could be really, really hard to break out of
Yeah,
that mindset, especially like essentially everything has to come to a halt for some people to realize like I can't keep doing this.
yeah.
And what else is there? And finally to even ask the question of what else is there is so tough for people. I remember I was writing a TV show with with one of my friends who used to be a producer at E, and this was my early days of influencing. I was like in my early 20s, and I wrote like 10 episodes, and one of the episodes talks about how to break out of that fear mindset, how to stop feeling stagnant. And the way to do that is by simply doing these small things. And these tips would be like, try a new meal tomorrow, like go to your favorite place, try a new meal. Very small things, but it helps you break that fear habit so that as you continue to break out of your old patterns, essentially it's not as scary and you can start making bigger leaps, not just in your career or your romantic life, but also in your personal life, and everything expands from there.
No, I love it. I mean, it's absolute truth. Really, it's just getting on the playing field with fear, even if it's a baby step, even just if it's crawling out of the bleachers and putting your
Mhm.
toe on the playing field, you
Yeah.
accomplish something. And that accomplishment disarms fear because you decided to say, fear, not today. You're going to the back of the boat. Today, we get to explore and we get to be courageous on it. And now we're telling ourselves that we recognize you, fear. You're legitimate. You're never going away. But I'm in charge
Mm.
of the fear. I get the choice to say, I respect you today and I agree. Maybe it is we need to back off from it, but today I get to decide I want to grow and do something different today. And fear, you just need to, here's a banana, go to the back of the boat for a little bit, and we're just going to do this together.
Yeah, and thank you. And also with your fear, I always acknowledge saying thank you because your fear is there to protect you.
It is
Yes. Yeah.
absolutely. And when we think about, well, how can we overcome fear? It's not so much overcoming fear in such a sense as recognizing and having a conversation with fear and understand that, yeah, thank you, like you said, and then also we get to do something different today because it matters in our life. And if we stay the same way, we're going to get what we don't want out of life, and we need something different now.
Yeah.
We've outgrown this, and we need to move on. So today we take a journey, and it goes back to where we're really human, spiritual, and emotional. We have logic. Our brain, we have logic, but we're highly emotional. So the brain is the thing that controls our emotions. Otherwise, it would be chimpanzees, which we're closest related to. They're highly, they go wild. If you set them off, they go crazy, yelling and hollering and all sorts of stuff. But the
Mm.
emotional or the human side of it is the logical side. Well, let's look at this for a second. I recognize you and I understand why you're upset, but we don't need to be on it. And here's why. And so we can calm the chimpanzee and still go forward in our life. And then we get to develop new habits and then rescript the chimpanzee, if you will, to what to expect. Because once we in the unknown, it becomes known, and then it becomes known, it's not so fearful.
Right. Yeah. And that inner dialogue is so helpful. And I agree with you. It's funny that you say that because a lot of people say like F fear. And I'm like, don't do that. Don't do that. Like it's giving you it's giving you a really good reason why not to
Reason.
do something. And sometimes you should listen to it if there is a good reason not to jump off a cliff.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah,
yes,
that's a healthy fear.
it's a healthy fear, yes. And then you can sit with that literally and go, oh no, we could just sit here and then take the view, and we're not going to jump off the cliff here. We're safe. We're going to be
That's a
okay.
great analogy. In fact, I'm going to use that. You're a role model, Ace. I'm going to imagine you on a cliff with your legs just dangling off of it, like you're just enjoying everything about it and having conversation with fear. No, we're not going to jump off, but we're here to enjoy it. But we get to sit down and look together.
Yeah.
And I
And it,
respect you because I'm not going to go jump off, and I'm not going to scare you to death because I'm going to be dead.
right. It's like, I heard you here, but we're okay. We're going to
We're
just
okay.
sit here.
We're not going that far. We're not going over the edge. The point
We're
of
not
no
dropping it.
return. Yeah, so we're okay. So we get to have that, and everybody gets, has a happy setting with it. So yeah, it's it's like some in guys' world, you're told to leave your emotions at the door. It's like a bag or something you can drop off. That's the most ridiculous nonsense I've ever heard in my life. It,
Yeah.
you know, we're creative beings and we all have emotions. We have different roles with our emotions and how, they show in different circumstances, but we all have emotions. You just can't bundle it up. In fact, separating your emotions from your being is like cutting your heart out. You know,
I love that you say that. So I used to work, and it was like one of my first careers, and I guess it's one of my first careers. So I was working in TV development, and TV development is very interesting. It's building the business around a TV idea while you're working with very creative people. So being able to speak creative language, yet at the same time, still be business minded, right? And a lot of people think it's separate, and that is so incorrect. It's incredibly incorrect. What I found about TV development and why it was so fast paced and why you were able to build so quickly while being in that area is because your communication skills with your business mind and your emotions have to be aligned. It has to work with each other. And that way you can create and have one of the most amazing TV shows, but at the same time, still make sure everybody is being compensated or appreciated from what they're doing. So the emotions were so important because if you didn't have any, you didn't have a good show. No one cared. But if you have the emotions and you're able to help connect with people on that level through the business to the creatives, everything worked.
no, but now you're dealing with all personality types when you're in that role. You really are. And
Yeah.
you get to understand who they are and how they're created and how to work with them and how to communicate. And the biggest thing that I've learned too is most of us only know how to communicate to our own style, which is about
Yep.
25% of the population. So we
Uh,
don't learn how to communicate to 75% of the people, and that's a problem.
yes, I agree. And I think it's interesting because I worked with a leadership coach and she I forgot which assessment it was, but she gave me Myers-Briggs, I think it was the Myers-Briggs one. Essentially, it showed me what type of communication style I had and how to work with people of a different communication style. So while I was learning that, it was like learning English to Chinese. I was like, how do I
It
get
is.
along with you? This is hard. I just, yeah. And it's like a completely different language. But eventually, as you learn it over time and you get more exposed to people of different languages.
Yeah, you flex into it. You're able to learn the language and flex into it. And that's exactly it. I'm
Yeah.
very analytical. Being an
Mhm.
engineer, that's what we are. But being analytical in a sense that we don't like taking risk. However, I like taking risks. Otherwise, I would never discuss jumping off of the face of a cliff with a parasail. Because that didn't jive. So that means I have a different personality in there somewhere
Mm.
that requires action as well. But I'm also kind-hearted, so I'll get the shirt off my back if it'll help you.
So
But
yeah, that shows leadership, which is
yeah,
also inspiring. So there are four different styles, and I'm like looking in my mind's eye as I look up.
well,
And
yeah. Well,
so
if you're a promoter, you have a lot of promotion capability because you carry a high level of energy. You love to dream and to share and things like that. But I also know that you have a great heart as well. And so you would also help somebody else as well. So it's kind of like you have an L. You have either a line or an L for most of them you kind of touch. Your core, mine will be more core yeah, I should be halfway in between what would be called a analytical person and a supporter.
I am actually. So
Yeah.
that's the four types. There's one that's called like they're called dominating, like
Well,
dominate.
it's called a controller in a
Yeah,
sense.
controller.
It's,
Thank you.
yeah, it's a
That one.
controller, not that we got control of everything, but those are the people that get things done. But they lack compassion a lot of times, and they don't mean to, and
Yeah.
they bulldoze you. And as somebody that you really care about people, being a social type of person who wants to support people, a controller runs over you. Really, the supporter gets very upset and usually carries a bit of revenge. They want to, they can't stand them and want to get back at them. But the
Exactly.
controller needs the supporter because the controller gets lonely.
Yeah, we all need to work together. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what 3% of the population apparently. That's what
yeah.
and then the other 17% is like data and analytics and results. So they're like you said, they're like you, analytics driven, right? So
But
they're
I'm
the
not 100% analytic. See, that's the thing. I don't
yeah.
fully depend on numbers. Numbers make,
We all
yeah,
aren't. That's the cool thing. We're not
yeah,
all just one,
yeah,
but
exactly.
yeah, but our most natural is like a certain percentage of what we are. So as you can tell, I know my percentages are one thing. Like I'm actually very data and results driven as well. So, but I do take risk and I also can
That's a
inspire.
controller. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like
that's a
your L is like you're the promoter natural, that you love pulling people together and creating things. And then you bought one of the party else goes in controller because you like getting things done and making things happen and you take risk, just like mine is. I'm not the promoter so much. I go the opposite, but if you go take the other party out, you definitely go into supporter. But your natural resonance is in between those two because you have that higher energy. I bet you could go out on the street right now and pull 100 people together just because you decided to, and they would respond to
yeah,
it.
with the right purpose.
With the right
I will
purpose.
100 I can do
Well,
that.
okay, yeah, understood, and I agree with the right purpose. But if you go out there, you're quite capable to do it. Where it might be difficult for me to resonate in such a way that energy that would draw the same people to it. But however, to put the two of us together, it could be very impactful
Yes.
in the sense that you could give out, I could give stats, or I can support evidence, and you put the two together. It's why it's meant for us not to do it alone.
Yeah, 100%. I'm actually more of a so what I love doing, I do love oversight. I am definitely one of those individuals that can see things at a macro level and then my eye can
Mhm.
catch the one cog in the machine that's not working and then figure out how to align it with the rest so that everything is efficient. That I can do with ease. If you put me in just one department though, I don't enjoy just sitting there and not understanding the macro. I don't have to control the entire situation. That's not what I love doing. But I am one of those individuals that enjoys understanding each part of the air quotes machine. I don't want to say machine, every organ of an organization. And
That's
it's,
analytical and that's
yeah,
understanding. I'm a macro as well. I'm visionary. And the way I think about it is what people is a piece of puzzle. And what's the big framework of the puzzle? What's that look like? What's our vision? And how these
Mhm.
pieces fit into that puzzle and how they work together. That's how I can easily explain how I see things.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, exactly.
yeah. So you're much alike. You just need to know. And it also allows you to bring in resources that, the picture may not have that might make it a bigger picture.
Oh yeah, that was the fun thing about our podcast. So the Touched and Empowered podcast that I work on, that we wonderfully interviewed William Goodwin as well. It was fantastic.
I
Essentially,
appreciate it.
I'm sorry.
I said I do appreciate that
Oh,
opportunity to.
we appreciate you. You gave us such incredible gems, and it was amazing to have you on. And you know, when I first started that podcast, it started with an idea, and then there was a part where I was like, I don't have this part of the idea. I don't know what it's called. And then I met Katie, and she had the other part. Then I
Yeah.
brought in our producer Nicole. We had somebody else who was helping support the podcast.
Mhm.
She gave us about 50% of her interviewees. I am a good networker, so essentially,
Yes, you are.
thank you. Understanding where we can put value, where we can create together, where we can both, where us and other collaborators can both benefit. That's my favorite part of it all, is trying to see where we can find that happy apex, I think is the right word, where we all benefit and we all win. So
Agree.
yeah, that like just finding that one spot is like so cathartic to me. So essentially from there, I was able to help find the people that can be on the podcast as our amazing system and structure. See, so amazing. Um, ran itself with Katie and Nicole. And I was just like, it's so amazing to see 81 episodes already built and ready.
81.
Yeah, they're already distributed and they're out.
That's fantastic. I just started mine really in December. I'm up to 9. And I've got enough Ace that takes me all the way out into April and people that want to get on. And I don't have a big following, but that doesn't really matter at this point. I think I'm trying to learn how to create it on YouTube, what makes it tick to draw people to see it. I'm trying to learn that, but it's crafting a message and being out there and being willing up to help other people and bringing different resources out there and learn as you go along from all these people
Absolutely.
and
Like
building
you,
relationships as we go along, just like ours. It's like that's really the cool stuff.
that's my
So
favorite.
that's the fruit of podcasting and doing any type of summits or stages or things like that, and get to meet all these people. So that's been a big blessing to me. I actually found something a couple of days ago that I'm actually engaging with, and because logically it fits into what I work with in Vision and Word. But there's a company called Wealth Builders out there that
I
teaches.
know wealth builders.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I just joined them. In fact, because I can teach financial literacy and help people understand what that is. And even if that's all they get from it, at least they'll have the education.
So that's important. I think if you're just doing the money part, don't really go anywhere, to be honest.
Mhm.
For instance, this podcast I knew was a way to build relationships. I
Mhm.
understood this is a way to build relationships. And even just speaking with somebody on a podcast, that can be inspiring and it can rejuvenate you. So even 81 episodes later, yes, amazing. But when we first started, very similar to you, we were like, okay, we'll just, I don't know, to me, I was like, let's just get this started. It'll grow because I've
That's
seen
what I
things
think.
grow like that.
And I
Uh,
see that. And I see that people are willing to just to, get awareness and get onto different podcasts.
yeah. And also didn't know that you're being taken care of. So I have a background in radio and I have a background in media and entertainment. I used to be a journalist as well.
I
So
saw that. I was wondering how you got in front of 50,000 people at one time. I saw that podcast.
that was that wasn't the journalist part. That was
Right.
just like expanding as a speaker. That was very fascinating. But I did understand how to have a stage presence, small things, learning small ways, growing and expanding your crafts, right?
Mhm.
So with knowing how to be on radio, with knowing how to speak, or even just emulate some of my favorite radio hosts, this is where that voice comes from, right?
Yeah.
And Yeah. And from there, just seeing things expand, as long as you just start,
Mhm.
things will grow. And that's what's important.
Ideas. One trick I learned also is when I'm looking on the screen now, I put my subject matter to the right and some facts to the left. So I'm here. I'm looking up at you because normally we don't think about it. I'm looking down at the screen. I'm looking at you on the screen, but I'm not looking at you, the audience, like I am like this. I didn't know that until somebody pointed it out. It's like, duh, I guess I am looking down at you, but I'm looking at you, but I'm looking down. So the
Yeah.
audience is thinking I'm looking down, not at them.
Yeah. And engaging and looking into the camera, that's all like, it's all stuff
Body
to
language,
learn.
yeah, body language, you kind of lean in if you really tell me, I want to tell you a secret, Ace, and things like that. You learn, like you said.
And how to do it naturally. Because eventually it's like you start with the mechanics and you're like, I feel robotic. But eventually you lean into that. You start understanding who you are, understand your voice, understand exactly who, what, when, why, your ticks, all of it. And it's actually to me, it's fun to learn because once you understand those parts of you that you can work on, you can only do it by doing. So, yeah.
Practice, practice, practice. That sounds
Yeah.
great to get back. What do you want to talk about next? And I'd like to get something out there that we can focus on, just what's on your heart, Ace? What can we deliver to the audience that would mean something? Transformation coaching. We talked about a lot here that has a lot to offer already to people. I might just bundle this up, the whole conversation, and edit it and put it out there and call it good. You know.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I think a lot of what we're talking about is how to grow, right? How to actually grow. And I
How to
think,
overcome fear, for example.
but that's how you grow,
Exactly.
right? So overcoming fear it's fascinating because if you do overcome your fear, please understand that you are going to grow. So understanding that as long as you value growth in your life, you will overcome every fear towards your growth and expansion. And that to me is so important at a core level. Once you do that, you can start anything, grow anything, and it'll sustain.
Well, it ties back into being. So my equation is being first, then do, and then have. All right. But if you're being in fear, the doing part's not going to count.
You kind of have to see through that, right? Like a lot
Yeah.
of people, a good portion of the time, they're like, I want to do X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, great. You realize you're going to have to overcome a few things to get there, right? For instance,
Yeah.
you want to start a podcast. We're here. You want to grow your podcast. The fear is you don't know how to promote, air quotes. That's a air quote fear. But
Mm.
fear, right? That's not exactly the problem, and that's not the case. The thing is, you're going to overcome that fear by learning how to promote. You're going to put yourself out there. You're going to find a piece, figure out how to take a snippet of this podcast and put it on YouTube Shorts. That is overcoming the fear. That is the growth.
That is entirely that. And being vulnerable. Being
Yeah.
vulnerable.
Yeah. Isn't it scary to be vulnerable?
But that's the greatest power we have.
That's the essence of creation, actually, in my opinion. A lot of people think you can totally create from a place of not being vulnerable. I don't think it's the
I
best art, but you can.
well, people have done it for years, and they sell and sell and sell, and they suffer in themselves because they're not vulnerable and real. And it's not really about selling so much as offering up, having an opportunity to offer to another person, and if it fits, that's great. But you know what? You got to be you before you impair any trust to anybody else. You got a BS meter that goes on the back. What's the level? Are they real or not real? What are they after on it? And vulnerability is the trust meter.
Exactly.
Vulnerability equals courage. They're equally component. And from the result of vulnerable in courage comes trust. Because
Hmm.
get to see the real you.
Oh, yeah. I think also practicing being vulnerable yourself. So, for instance,
Well, 100% on that.
yeah, like if you can catch somebody when they're
Mhm.
not being vulnerable, you can tell. They're not being sincere. You can feel that. But if you're practicing to be vulnerable and then actually take action from that space, ooh, you grow fast. Oh, the things you can create, and like how much trust you can build with those relationships that you breach in those moments. Oh my gosh. But it does take a lot of courage to even start coming from that place of being truly authentic. Like in this moment right now, I was like, let's do this. I'm in a place of vulnerability. Let's have fun.
Mine as well. So yeah, you bring some humor to it, and you just be real, be yourself, and yeah, it does take practice, especially if you got the barriers built up around you.
Oh yeah.
That you're afraid to be real because you might get hurt if you're real, and those are fears too. That's what that goes back to what you're talking about. Remember, if you overcome a fear, you got to grow.
I actually I had a really value creating relationship uh, a while back that I remember saying, "What are your fears?" And then I totally missed the whole, yeah, I'm being afraid to get hurt. And I went, "Oh, yeah, that's a fear." And I was like, I totally forgot it. I like spaced about it because I was like, if you're gonna get hurt, you're gonna get hurt, but then you get over it and you keep going, and like you just can't.
You get a boo boo.
Yeah, you get it. Like I'm a snowboarder as well, so like learning how to snowboard, you get hurt, then eventually you don't hurt anymore. But it is one of those things where I totally forgot about that fear because it's something that you add to the journey. You actually have to account for it. If you are scared to get hurt, one, you're going to get hurt.
Oh yes.
You're just going to get hurt. You're going to go in that direction and get hurt. Two, if you're scared to get hurt, you're actually refraining from even feeling alive because understanding how to get over those humps is how you're going to thrive, how you're going to grow, see where you can avoid the potholes and not fall into them.
Well, you're gonna get scars one way or another, and the scar reminds you of what happened. You know,
Yeah.
it just it's something to learn from.
Oh, yeah. Plus, they're pretty cool after a
Right.
while. At least
Yeah.
I think they are.
Well, I got a few. I don't, I got a lot actually.
Like when, well, on this trip to Sedona, I went with one of my like familial best friends, and he was like, "You got some scars on you since I last hung out with you 10 years ago." And I went, "Ah, you think?" But at least, another thing that really adds to it is like if you're going to get hurt, you're going to get hurt, yes. But joy, when you bring joy into the picture of your growth, you also expand faster and it's more fun.
There you go. That's the fruit right there. Because it goes from I'm going to be afraid, and then I accomplish being not afraid and I accomplish that. And what's the reward from that? What's the accomplishment that you feel, deep down inside you're alive and you did it? Oh man, does that get exciting? And yeah, it brings joy and happiness and peace and serenity a lot of times because the fear is gone. You just spent so much energy and anxiety with that relationship, and then it's gone. It's like I don't have that draw on me anymore on it,
Yeah.
and I'm free. And freedom, taste of freedom like that is,
Fulfilling.
golly, that's priceless. In some cases,
Yeah, I agree.
that right there is a podcast, and that right there we're gonna put out there because that's real, that's raw, it's vulnerable, and it's the truth. Yeah, it really is the truth. And if you want to get over fear, take action.
Absolutely.
Get on the field and face them and deal with them. Because most of the time, I can tell you, it's not really a fear. It's a fear that's made up, what you think it is, but it's really not. The majority of the time, it's like, oh, what was stopping me to begin with? Type of thing. And it's not real. Some things are real and you have to face, but a lot of times they're just self-made fears on it.
Self-imposed limitations,
Yeah, it is.
which to be honest, and like no shame. Don't get me
No,
wrong, because
we've
we
all
all
been
have them.
there. We
Yeah,
all have them. We all been there. That's how we grow again.
exactly. But having someone there, or even yourself in the moments that you're like self-reflective, when you can acknowledge those limitations, that's going to help a lot in your growth. No shame, no guilt, no nothing. Just that's what that is. I see it. Okay. How am I going to overcome it? How am I going to move forward from this? How
Mhm.
am I going to acknowledge that and utilize that in the future? That's how to grow with those fears, but also move past them and continue in your life. That's really important.
Right there it is. That's the nugget of the day right there, folks. Straight from Ace.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, all right. Well, I think we will just use this as a podcast because there's plenty of material in there we can share and help other people with. And that's good enough. That's it. That's the way it should be anyway.
Yay. Love it. Thank you.
Ace, is there anything I can do to support you? Anyway, any fashion, anyhow?
Oh, you're doing it. We're actually coming out with a newsletter soon, the Touched Empowered newsletter. So that will give you a daily dose. Well, daily dose. That will give you a weekly dose of empowerment. We'll have some motivational quotes. We're going to talk about our featured episode of that week, some fun tidbits. Then from there, other ways to support us and how to follow us and continue working or collaborating with us in the future.
Oh, I intend to definitely do that. So that's why I said, hey, can you help with this? Show, yeah, why not? Let's go. That's the way I hang.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, feel free to forward that to your listeners, to any friends. I
Okay.
know that as people subscribe, more awareness and more good things will happen.
Oh, it will. It's going to be a great year, Ace. I really do appreciate it. Tell Katie I said hi, and maybe I ought to pull her to the carpet. We'll have that conversation. Maybe both of you go along.
Yeah, that'll be fun. That'll be great on the next one. So yes, thank you for
Yeah,
having.
yeah. I'll see if we can cue that up, and we'll get some fun going. This is the great part of podcasting is just meet real people and just having fun and talk about good things that's gonna help another person, get past whatever they're facing at the moment, and just that's almost just a party almost.
Pretty much, right? That's
Yeah,
why I like it. I'm like, oh, every week we get to do this and have fun, and then at the same time raise funding for a good cause. Let's keep going.
do it, do it, do it. All right, sweetie. Well, you do not get any cinders or singe hairs out there, okay?
Okay, I
And
got
you
you.
take care. And as long as Ace is good, I'm happy.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah.
All right, my dear. Until next time, I'll talk to you. And feel free to call me whenever. It doesn't have to be on a podcast.
Oh,
All right.
happy to. Thank you.
All right, dear. See ya.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Ciao.